Hi, everybody. Hi, Dominic. How you doing? Hey, BH. I love these long names. Hi, Joe. How you guys doing today? Hey, Junior. Good to see you. Um, I better trim my mustache or something. My beard grows like a haystack, just going around. Okay, let me check and make sure the sound is okay. Can you guys hear me okay and the video all right? Haystacks don't grow. Okay. Oh, good. Sound fine. Good. I had to. I'm still working on my desktop, and I'm going to have to get a giant hub. Otherwise, I'm pulling these USB ports in and out all the time. Anyway, so today what I wanted to talk about, and it turns out the more I thought about it, the more complex it became. But that's okay. Um, Hi, Tourbillon. How you doing? And that is that okay, we want to have a perfect, an ideal watch. Now, there's not a lot we can do to go tell a company, okay, we want this watch, we want this, and we want this, this, and this, and this, and we want it at a certain price point. And, whether they can do it for that or not, I don't know. I do know this that even perhaps even more than half of what we pay for watches when I go and I buy a watch, I might be paying over half for the marketing and advertising, and everything that implies. So we're if we sort of go for the 10-to-1 rule, and I don't know how much it holds in watchmaking, but in most other things, they sort of use that as the cost of a watch or the cost of a book. I know books better than that. Is that about the retail price or the MSRP is 10 times what the manufacturing price is. And depending on the discount that they have to give to the AD and all of the other retailers and so forth, a very small part of the watch that you buy is actually for building the watch and the materials that go into it and the design of the watch, the design of every part of the watch. So I thought what we could do is saying, all right, look, I would really like a watch with this, and I'd want these features in it. Now we'll have to figure out the cost in a sort of as we go along. I know some of the things people say, oh well, you can't do that. That'll cost a fortune. For example, I really like um, what are they called? Remontois égalités. And I think the first word I hear in my own head, my God, those things are expensive, they're complicated. That's how come there's so few of them. Or a tourbillon. The sort of the myth of the tourbillon has been flattened out by ones you can pick up for under $1,000 from a certain Chinese manufacturer, and they work. They're tourbillons. They don't work exactly the way the initial intention was because we're on watches and watches move in too many different directions for a tourbillon to keep up. They now have a different kind of tourbillon that probably work better. I don't know, but so anyway, so that's what I want to talk about is that well, you want to spend it on the case, you want to spend it on the dial, you want to spend it on a movement, and what would be an important thing, and I think for a lot of people is that the most important thing is the very first thing they see, which is the dial. More people will go out and buy a watch just because they like the dial than probably any other reason, given a certain price range. So let's talk about what we would put in our watch, and we don't have to worry about price right now. We can get around to that in a bit, we can take things off if we want to have under certain amounts. Hi, Kaz, how you doing? Hey, Tim. Hello, the traveling nomad from Sweden. Hey, Kindle. Mark J, how you doing? Um, Washington football. Well, I tell you, you got to get an abbreviation for that Washington football fan, WGIL, something quick, like fan. That's a good one. Um, Observatory hands. Okay, that's a starting off with the hands. Why observatory hands? Now, let me ask that question and give you my answer. Well, first of all, I think they're cool, but the other thing about observatory hands that I like is that you've got a big poem at the end of the hour hand, and then you've got a straight hand for the minute hand. And man, it's so easy to tell time. You just look at it and you don't have to figure which one's bigger or smaller and so forth. Like on this one, they're both, I don't know what they'd call them, look like arrow hand. I don't know. They're not arrows, they're sword hands or something like that. They're just two sticks in a little triangle shape to them. But with an observatory hands, you can look at them, and not only they're cool, you can tell the time in an instant. Okay, so that's one thing. I think. Are they any more or less expensive? My guess would be they're more expensive because they have to build them with the round thing as opposed to sort of gathering up off of the sort of the, I guess, what you call run of the mill movements on those things. Okay, so that's one thing. Um, is there such a thing as a stationary nomad? No. Yeah. So, not it's also known as not a very good nomad, a confused nomad. Okay, Dominic, applied brigade numerals. Hmm. What do you mean by applied? Let me ask you that, and I don't mean it as like I'm sure because I'm not. I've heard that term before, and there are these sort of blocky little things you put in, and they're 3D, and you put those in, and that's one way to. I guess that is that applied or which one for the numerals? I think the numerals, good-looking numerals are important, and I think I have a couple watches with the Breguet numerals on them. So how about those, Dominic? What do we talk about applied Breguet numerals? Hey, Vladimir Fish, how you doing, man? Thomas, good to see you. Um, okay, some of my requirements would be under 10 millimeters thickness. Okay, a thin display, case back, manual wind, 3 hertz. Boy, you got classical numerals. Think Breguet style. Okay, those are clear ones. 1 hertz and 3 years power reserve. Okay, that would be quite a thing. With 1 hertz, though, they have a nice big balance wheel that I'd like to have. 3 years, that's a little much. Yes, they are cut out on the surface. Okay, that was what I thought they were, but I wasn't sure. Hey, Raj, how you doing? Applied equal made separately instead of painted or painted on. Okay, thank you. Hey, beauty of sin, what do you think of ranchers' goat milking techniques? Hey, kick the bucket over every time. Um, okay, so let's see some of the things that we're talking about. We're talking about brigade numerals. See, what are some other things that you've mentioned? And then put them on with the applied, say, a sort of a 3D look. Um, Manual wind only. I like that one too. Um, Brigade numerals, but they don't have to be applied. A simple white dial with printed brigade numerals would do me. Would do you, huh? You're gonna get done. Hey, PSK, how you doing? Bespoke movement. Uh, ooh, a bespoke movement, it would depend, 'cause, some bespoke movements I mean, look, it when if you listen to companies like Breguet and, not Breguet, but, Breitling and, IWC and some of these other ones that have been using, ETA, movements for years and calling them something else, um, they claim that to develop a new movement cost them 10 million bucks. Now, I can see that in the one hand, if you have to develop a movement from scratch, and then you have to have the manufacturing, all the machinery to make all of the gears and everything like that. Yeah, I could see that going for 10 million, but taking something as a base and building on that base could certainly do a bespoke movement from that. That would be one thing. Um, I also really like guilloche pattern dials. A lot of people do. I'll put it that way. Some I really like. Other ones I like not as much. To me, the extent to which decoration or over decoration, uh, if it too the wrong kind of guilloche can get in the way of reading your hands on the dial. Anything that does that, I'm not too crazy about. Um, this is a watch where you have to have the right light on it, and the hands are clear as a bell. But if they turn the wrong way, suddenly the hands disappear. Bad. Anyway, so guilloche, it's up in the air with that. One of the like a lot of people have claimed as a favorite dial is a Breguet Classique, which is just a plain dial with numbers around it. Other ones like for Guy Loche, some of Kerry Voot and Lannon's are really quite nice. Um, hey, Flippin' Zippo, new camera. No, I had a makeover. No, no, it is a new camera, but it's not my new camera. It's my old laptop because my main one busted. And I've got 2 of the 3 parts for it, and I'll be getting the other one by the end of the month sometime. And that ought to be a really great camera on that one. We'll see. Um, Teardrop lugs for me at the moment. I like teardrop lugs too. Teardrop lugs are cool. Um, I've gone from guilloche to trebuchet dials. I don't know. Hey, Rune, what a cool name. 24-hour 2 indicators. Ah, okay. Now, by 2 indicators, Rune, what do you mean by that? Um, do you mean like I'm not sure what you mean by 2 indicators. Um, I really like the Brigade Classique style of Guilloche dial. Okay. Not too busy or distracting, just classic. Yeah. Second time zone. Okay. Yes, that was what I thought. Believe it or not, the one I just showed you, this one has a second time zone. This right here is the second time zone on my Jaeger-LeCoultre. Um, I like second time zones too, but during the pandemic, I just needed one. Let's see. Okay, so these are some of the things. What about now other things in the movement? What if you could add something? We talked about adding one thing. Now we can add as many as we want. What would you like to see in the movement? We're talking about a manual wind movement, and I think there's probably a little more you can do with a manual wind because if you have to build up on the standard movement, you have a little more room because there's no uh, rotor to deal with. A lot of people think those micro rotors are, they're really great. Well, they're great for keeping a watch thin, but they're taking up real estate where you can have other things that have to do with constant force. So I have one watch that has one, and it's a love the watch. In fact, it's one of my favorite. But it does make the balance wheel a little smaller because you got to have the old thingy there for it. Um, Small second because it's hot and yeah, it's not as thick. I used to not like small seconds, but I've come to really like them for that exactly for that reason because you can bring it down to make it thinner with that. But I still like center seconds too. So it's the thing about seconds, I never use them. I honestly don't. I mean, if I just don't use my second hand. I or if I do, it's very rare. Um, and I'm not even sure what I'd use it for. So it's not that big of a deal for me. A 7-day power reserve, Mark. I don't know. I got this one's got about a 2-day or something like that, roughly 2 days. But here's the thing: two of my favorite watches have 7-day power reserve. If I didn't have a whole bunch of other watches that I like to rotate, that'd be fine, but I can't. If I started with Monday, then the other one's got to be on the before the seventh day runs out. But I think for an everyday good watch, I like that idea. I mean, the having you wind it up once a week and you put it on and off to work. You don't have to think about it. I like that. I like it a lot better than an automatic. But again, um, automatics are probably the most popular watch. I mean, same with chronographs, but if that's what people like. Okay, let's see what else we can put together. Um, Power reserve on the back, please. Yeah, Andrew. Belated greetings. Greetings to you. Hey, Owen, how you doing? Symmetry is a nice feature in a movement which can be used to emphasize the asymmetric special element. Very good, Owen. That's very, very good. Dual barrel then. Vladimir. Okay, so you want dual barrels. Now, what kind of dual barrel? Serial or parallel? Um, I do like parallel barrels because they add to the constant force. Serial barrels add to the amount of time that you're going to be clocking it. Something else that serial barrels are used for too is that the use of the Maltese cross stop action uh, requires the double barrel because what the Maltese I there's another name for it, but what the Maltese cross system does, it stops movement from winding on the first part um, to use on the second part. I forgot how it does it. But I just had a video on it, but basically it goes around and then after you get to a certain point, it stops. And so serial barrels in that case actually do add to something of the constant force because what the Maltese cross system is doing is just using that part of the mainspring that is most consistent. So there is that. Um, Simple complication that is interesting is a subseconds or seconds reset through crown or via button. That's a very interesting one, Joseph. You see very few of those, but that is an interesting one. Uh, just hit no, yeah, watching the motion. Um, Sweep hand dramatic. I just like to see it. Okay, that would be for a center second. I I like them both. And like I said, I don't pay that much attention to the second hand, so I'm no help on that. Hey, online or offline online. Is buying the rights and tooling for an out of production watch an option? Might be less expensive. What a great idea. I like that. I like that a lot. But that would probably get pretty expensive. I'd say, "Oh, hey, there's a watch factory that went out of business. I'll buy the watch factory and fix it up for myself." Um, the traveling oh, let's see. Double barrels and swan's neck regulator. Yeah, I like the swan's neck regulator. I like well, you have to be a little more coordinated with the swan's neck regulator because you go in there with a little bitty screwdriver and screw it one way or the other, and then the swan's neck pushes the regulator needle. Like I don't know what they call it, but that regulator needle either plus or minus. And I like using a toothpick go right after the needle, but that looks cool. I'll say that for it. Constant force sounds stress inducing. Must be careful all the time. Even even God rested. Yeah. Well, how about this? Rather than constant force, maybe a better term would be even force, so that throughout the watch the force is the same, and so there's no slackers and no pushing and shoving. Finger bridges. Ooh, I love finger bridges. One of my favorite movements is a UWD. What is it? 33.1, I think, is the name of it. That Marco Lang made. Now is part of Lang and Hine. Yes, finger bridges. I love finger bridges. Um, You like the cereal. Okay, that's you get a longer charge with cereal. The thing I don't like about double barrels, the same reason that I'm about micro rotors, is that it sort of takes up room for a nice big fat uh, balance wheel. Okay, let's see what you got here. Um, Love the ALS referencer. Mhm. At least the tools won't take up too much space. Okay, Foreman. I like buying the tool idea. Anyone have an empty factory building? Yeah, yeah, I got one out in my shed. Um, Hi, lease time. How you doing? Um, my bright blue light watch band. I love wearing this. This one, and I got a bright orange one for my H. Moser Endeavor. Love that brown dial. Give me small seconds and date at 6, much like, I don't know, what is this big long number? I think Omega's huge numbers like, oh yeah, I recognize that. Oh, Raj, what I don't want on a dial is a Cyclops eye. You know, I don't mind a Cyclops eye. It's sort of a visual aid, and but I'm not a big having a date on a date window either. But you know, that's that's another thing. Um, I've got some date windows, and usually one of the things about date windows, sometimes they really mess up the symmetry of the dial. On my Urban Jurgensen, I almost like it's a great watch, great. I think I love the looks of it, and it has all of that. It has sort of the brigade style to it with the observatory hand, but then it's got that little box like, Um, hey, Javier, how you doing? Um, Cyclops Eye. You know, There may be other watches that use the Cyclops eye, um, on their over their date window, and I know that it's, one of the things that's on a lot of Rolexes, and a lot of Rolex owners don't like them. To me, I that's one thing, and it's funny, yeah, look at the old Rolex with his sock eye. I don't know. It looks fine. It may mess up the symmetry though, and you may have to get it at a certain angle so that it actually works as a magnifier. It doesn't bother me, but I know it drives some people nuts. So no Cyclops eye. In fact, do we need a day date, or do we need a date at all? Would that be something you'd want to put in your ideal watch? I guess not. Okay, ditch the date. Um, how for constant force, what would be a good what would there's for a good constant force mechanism using a single barrel. Uh, I don't know what Harboring 2 did, but they've got a single barrel. They got a my Harboring 2 keeps almost perfect time, better than anything else they've got. But they do it with a single barrel, and I don't know what they do to make them so accurate, so consistent. I've had mine 4 or 5 years now, and that thing is still the most accurate watch I have. One thing they may do, they may have a very strong mainspring. Uh, People like mine included, people I've talked to with a, Harboring 2 talk about how hard it is to wind. And that may be the same thing with the 4400 and the Vacheron Content 10, except here's the difference. On a If you've ever ridden a 10, 15 speed bike, um, the what is it? I don't know, you lower the lower the gear, the more pedaling you have to do, but it's not as hard. On a 4400, you just wind and wind and wind and wind. Somebody told me, he said, well, what they've done is they lowered the gear ratio so that um, it'll take longer to wind it, but apparently they got a pretty strong spring in there. On the other hand, Harboring 2, I guess the Austrians are really like Arnold, and wind up that thing. It's hard to wind, but boy, I tell you, it keeps great time. And so what I'm thinking, maybe a strong mainspring might be a good thing to have for constant force. I don't know why, but it seems to work. Um, okay, let's see. What did Rod say? I like all a rail track for the second. So do I. That's Rod. That's yeah, Raj and Andrews. Good one. Hey, Truman. Yeah, Cyclops is annoying. Uh, is plenty legible. Deep Sea is plenty legible without it. Yeah, I. uh, Lang has a massive mainspring with a reduction gear for 31 days. That is exactly what I'm talking about, Truman, having a reduction gear. If any of you have a Vacheron Constant 10 that uses a 4400 hand wound, it's a hand wound watch, and it just, you wind and you wind and you wind. I think you get about a 2-day charge out of it, and you get a very accurate one too. At least that's been my experience. And it doesn't become magnetized. This guy loves to be magnetized, but I don't know why. Um, Boy, 31 days. Jeez. Truman, what the Alonga's got a 31-day hand wound? That's amazing. I'd get an electric winder for that. Okay, what are some other things we'd want on this watch? What I'm thinking. Oh, wound with a key. Okay. Yeah, I think I know the one you're talking about, Truman. good sturdy components, open works, easy service, two-time modern finish. Okay. Piaget. What's this? A Piaget, yeah. Now Piaget's right now, as far as I know, they're known for their thinness and, real gentleman's watch. Um, ah, thin enough, I guess. Okay, well, listen, guys, my time is up. It's 4:30, but I think these things are good to think about. I was reading some advertisements about some watches, and they say very, very little about constant force. And that is, I don't know, in a way, the sine qua non of a good movement. If it doesn't maintain constant force, somehow you're not going to have, it's not going to be very good as a timekeeper. Now, I'm not talking about trying to match a quartz, rather trying to judge the quality by the way in which it consistently takes time. Hey, Michelle. Hey, greetings back to Italy. Okay, guys, take care. Um, Monday, having a new video that I think you might find interesting, and there'll be an unboxing with it. I've not behaved myself. Adios.